Are you still guessing exposure? Most modern photographers think the flash meter belongs in a museum. But is that a mistake that's costing you time and precision? Today, we're looking at the ultimate old-school tool to see if it's a redundant relic or the secret to mastering studio lighting.
Welcome to Commercial Photographer, your guide to marketing, creativity, and growth. This is a podcast that helps commercial, brand, and headshot photographers navigate the competitive world of commercial photography with actionable strategies to grow your business.
Hello, Marcus. How are you doing?
I am very well, thank you, Sam. Very well indeed. And how's yourself?
Very good. I'm slightly concerned how long you had to think about that one, but there we go. You're recovering. You getting there, Marcus?
Do you know what? I did have a funny old day yesterday. I was doing an event, and I just leant over for picked my camera bag up, and of course I just pulled my back a little bit, and it just got worse and worse during the day. It was so I didn't sleep too well last night. Oh, poor me.
Not good. You need to listen to the podcasts that tell you about how to look after your back and things, Marcus. There's some good ones out there, you know.
Yes, I do. I do. It's surprising, really. Yeah.
If only I could think who writes them.
Right. So we dive into today's topic.
Today's topic. So, Marcus, what are you going to tell us about today? Something to do with flash.
Yeah, I'm going to be talking about the flash meter.
Today, we're tackling one of the most polarizing topics in the industry, the handheld flash meter. Depending on who you ask, it's either a cornerstone of commercial photography or an expensive paperweight. In this episode, Marcus breaks down the technical differences between your camera's internal meter and a dedicated flash meter. We discuss why building a light setup is different from falling into it by accident, and how precision affects your ability to deliver consistent results for high-end client. Is this a piece of kit you must have in your bag to elevate your skills? Or has the mirrorless revolution just made it obsolete? Today, we're going to find out.
I see this coming up in a lot in conversations online about people. Do I need a flash meter? Do I not need one? So hopefully we can clear things up with this podcast today.
Sorry, I'm now imagining how far you are from Grandmaster Flash or something like that.
Dear.
But anyway,
okay.
Carry on.
So before we dive in, it's worth just mentioning for those people out there who don't know what a flash meter is as compared to a normal meter. A normal meter, lighting meter that you have in your camera or you can buy, measures constant lighting, ambient light, whatever it might be. Whereas a flash meter will measure light from a flash gun or a flash head. And so they're two different things. And you can normally tell when one is a flash meter, it's got what we call an invicone, which is like a white dome over the cell that measures it.
Yeah. Presumably, it's got to sync with the flash, otherwise it'll miss the very bright bit of light suddenly.
It does sync with the flash. You've got about 30 seconds when you press it on for it to sink in. But yeah, it's something like that. I'm not quite sure how they work, Sam. So depending on who you're talking to, a flash meter is either a relic, something that belongs in a glass display cabinet next to your film Hasselblad, or is still an essential piece of kit that keeps your lighting precise, consistent, and repeatable. So in this episode, we're going to take a proper look at both sides, the advantages, the disadvantages, where a flash meter actually shines, no pun intended, and where it gets in the way. And by the end, you should have a clear sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and by the end, we should have a clear sense of whether a meter deserves a place in your workflow or whether your digital camera is doing the job just fine on its own.
Cool. So I was going to ask that very quickly. So a normal camera has a built-in light meter, obviously, because it's automatic.
Yes.
Does it have a built-in flash meter?
No.
Or is that a long question that you're answering?
Not most. No cameras come with a flash meter. For mirrorless or DSLR cameras came along, things looked very different in the studio, Sam. You didn't have live exposure previews. You didn't have tethering. Everything was guesswork unless you had a flash meter. If you wanted f8, you had to measure it. If you wanted your fill light to be one stop under your key, you measured it. There was no, I'll take a quick test and see how it looks. So flash meters were born out of necessity. They were the photographer's eyes before the shutter clicked. And because of that, they became the cornerstone of studio lighting education. If you went to college, if you were trained under a commercial photographer, you learned to meter. But now, of course, we live
There
in
you go. So were you teaching flash meters, Marcus,
Oh
when you were
yes.
lecturing?
Oh, most definitely, Sam. Most 100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And look, as we're going to dive into, it's not just an old fan. It still has applications in the modern world today. So, what are the advantages of using a flash meter? Well, first of all, you're going to get precision and repeatability. A flash meter gives you something your camera can't always guarantee in numbers. Let's say you're shooting a corporate portrait job with 50 people over a course of a morning. Same lighting, same background, same output. A meter lets you know that you can lock it in at f8 on the key, 5.6 on the fill, and maybe f11 on a rim light if you use a thing like that. And you can repeat it over and over again. There's no guessing, there's no drifting. And so when the client needs the images to match perfectly across the entire set, the level of precision really matters. Yeah.
So otherwise without that, you could get to the end of the day, go home and do some processing, and the photos you took at the beginning of the day and the end look quite different, which when they put them all on the wall together is not going to be great, is it? Or make you a lot of work.
Yeah. And unless you spend quite a lot of money on lighting, they do drift, albeit very slightly, but they do drift. So a light meter can help lock that in. But there's this myth that meters slow you down. And yeah, okay, they can. But often it's the opposite. If you've ever built a free light system, which we've been talking about, it can be painful. Adjusting one light affects another. You take a test shot, check the histogram, tweak it again. You can easily lose 10 minutes just dialing in the ratios. With a meter, you measure the key, the fill, the kicker, job done. It's much more intentional. It saves time and means you build the look rather than fall into it by trial and error. And I think that's quite crucial, Sam. You build it how you want to see it. As you were just saying, Sam, if you teach photography or you're trying to really master studio lighting yourself, a flash meter can be an incredible educational tool. It shows you exactly what each light is doing. It trains your eye to recognize one stop of difference, half a stop even, and the relationship between distance, power, and exposure. Using a meter for a while builds an instinct that stays with us for years. And the final advantage I've got for it is it's useful when you're mixing light sources. Let's say you're mixing strobes, flash, with ambient or LEDs or even daylight coming through a window. A meter becomes extremely helpful. You can measure the flash, you can measure the ambient, and you can balance the two. You might want your flash one stop brighter than daylight or two stops under the fill, which is very common. The meter helps you build the mix with intention instead of guesswork.
And then presumably with the daylight, the sun comes out. That makes it very easy to go in and tweak and adjust the flash as needed to make up for that with the meter. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. It's really useful to have it outside, to use a meter when you're mixing ambient and flash. It's probably the most complicated way you can use lighting, I would say. Okay, we've looked at the advantages. Let's just dive quickly into the disadvantages. So if you're shooting fast-paced work, events, lifestyle, branding, kids or whatever where flow matters, stopping to pull out a meter can break the rhythm. People stiffen up, you lose the spontaneity, and for clients who need energy and connection, the meter can feel a bit like a barrier. Modern cameras are also extremely capable. So this is the big one. DSLRs or mirrorless cameras are so good at showing you a preview that for many photographers, the meter feels redundant. And I hear this a lot. You can see the exposure instantly. You can check the highlights. You can check the shadows, whatever it might be, and you can adjust it in seconds. But I would say, Sam, there's a slight caveat to that, in that when you look at the back of your camera, you're looking at the JPEG file, not the RAW file. So it's not a truly accurate representation, and often it looks a bit hot on the back of your camera. What I mean by hot, it looks a bit overlit.
Yeah.
When you go and look at the raw file on the computer, it can look a bit dark.
And then presumably, like you were saying a minute ago, with the trial and error approach, if you're close, that's great. But if you're a long way off and you're doing the trial and error, it's quicker to use the meter.
Yeah, especially, as I said, with multiple flashes going off. It really, and it trains your eye. They are also quite expensive, Sam. To buy a new flash meter, you're looking at £150, $150 upwards. Even it's surprising. And even second-hand market, they really retain their value. Sam, believe me, they go up to like £500-600 for a really flash meter. So if you're starting out,
A flash.
that's very good. Very good. We're in pun heaven on this show, that's for sure. If you're just starting out, or if you're not doing complex multi-light setups, the investment might not seem worth it. And also, just going back to the way cameras deal with light, especially flashlight, sometimes a perfect reading might not translate well to your sensor. Different lenses transmit light in different ways. Different sensors handle highlights differently. So, and some cameras bake in contrast without even you knowing it. So even a perfect meter reading is something I might not transfer accurately into the result.
That makes sense. So can I ask one quick
please
question?
Do, of course.
So if you get a flash meter,
yes.
Can it be any brand? So when we had a show about flashes, you're like, right, if you buy Godlocks, you must buy Godlocks, everything goes, then they talk to each other. Does your flash meter talk to your flash, or does you just put it in front of it and it reads the light coming off?
Okay, that's a good question. Yeah, it records the light falling onto it. So it's generic. It'll work with any flash brand.
So it doesn't matter any brand. You don't need to like press a button and sync it up and get them to talk to each other. It just is ready for the flash and just records the light level when it comes.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to use it in a certain way, which I'm going to dive into very briefly in a little bit. But yes, you can use it generically across the board. They're uber accurate, and you can have the reading in different ways. You can have it in what we used to call EVs, exposure values. You can have it in stops. The reason they're expensive, they are quite a bit of kit. Do you need a flash meter? Well, look, here's the balanced conclusion. A flash meter is brilliant for multi-light setups, consistency across a commercial situation, learning to understand light, mixing ambient and flash, and controlling lighting ratios precisely. So if you're shooting fast fluid-based work, it may slow you down. The real key to using it is intentionally. So bring it out when you need precision. Leave it in the bag when you need flow. There's no medal for using it, and there's no shame in using one. It's just another tool. So in closing, Sam, my take on the advantages and disadvantages of using a flash meter. It's a question that comes up a lot, especially as technology keeps advancing. But ultimately, the goal is to create work you're proud of. And whether that comes from a flash meter or a live histogram, it doesn't really matter. What matters is consistency, confidence, and knowing what tools you're using.
Excellent. Sounds like for most people, it's something worth having in the bag.
Yes. And you can always get one and sell it again because they seem to hold their value quite easily. I would say that I don't use one anymore, even for multiple light setups, but really, really helped me learn flash photography. Sam, it was great to revisit the flash meter debate. It's one of those tools that really separates the guessers from the intentional photographers. The first big takeaway for me was precision versus preview. While the back of the camera is great, it's only a JPEG. It's not the raw data. For high-end photography, a meter means you know exactly where your highlights and shadows sit before you even take the shot. Secondly, the educational value can't be overstated. Even if you don't use a meter every day, using one for 6 months can train your brain to understand studio lighting in a way that makes you a faster, better photographer for the rest of your career. And finally, to answer the big question, do you actually need one? Even though I used one extensively early on in my career, I've moved away from using one daily because modern digital workflow is so fast. But if you are doing complex, multi-light corporate work where 50 people must look identical, it's still the king of consistency.
And don't forget that you can get for free the Commercial Photographer Guide to Creativity and Marketing. After all, that's what this show is all about. To get your free download, all you need to do is go to our website at commercial-photographer-podcast.com/creativity. Let me do that one again. commercial-photographer-podcast.com/creativity. And from there, you can get your free guide from us to marketing and creativity. Right, well, thank you very much, Marcus, and I'll see you next week.
See you next week, Sam.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. If you want to make sure you never miss a show, head to the website commercial-photographer-podcast.com and sign up to the newsletter. We'll be back next week with more practical advice to help you grow your business. See you next time.